Coming at you live in the middle of a developing story. I just found out that this dish exists, raced out, picked up the ingredients, I came straight back. Very excited, not faking it. Hello everyone, welcome back to my home. Please make yourself comfy and Puerto Rican plantain lasagna. That's what is happening here today. It is a recipe from this cookbook here, Puerto Rican Cookery, which is a Puerto Rican food Bible from Carmen Aboy Valldejuli. It was sent to me from a viewer, Maria. Thank you. I was a big fan, quite enamored with the last thing that I made out of the book, which was the ropa vieja, a shredded beef stew. So I've been anxious to get back into the book, and MEAT-PLANTAIN pie seems to be the obvious choice. Pastelón. Plantains may be one of my favorite foods, especially when they're ripe and they got that sweetness. You can cook them, they become a little caramelized. So a plantain lasagna to me right now seems to be incredibly intriguing and potentially delectable. Let's get to work. I'm using quite a few interesting ingredients here, so something bigger than a frying pan. Starting with my ½ ounce of salt pork and my ounce of a prosciutto, browning on a high heat. Then goes around a tablespoon of lard. There wasn't any significant fat rendered out of the other pork products, so the lard is gonna come in handy. Reduce the heat to low. So everything is going to be finely chopped here, but this is a quarter of a green pepper, whole sweet chili pepper, 1 whole onion, 1 tomato. So after 5 minutes sauteing like so, now it's time for the funky ingredients. First up, I'm going to use ½ teaspoon of dried oregano that I crushed, clove of garlic, also crushed. So here we are with some specific ingredients. 2 dried prunes, 3 olives stuffed with pimento, both chopped. 1 teaspoon of raisins, ½ teaspoon of capers, 1/4 cup of tomato sauce, ½ teaspoon of salt, a scant 1/4 teaspoon of vinegar. Mix it well, cover this up, and I turn it up to a moderate heat and cook for 10 minutes. Here's the dealio. I'm gonna do that over here. So this was kind of a strange step in the recipe that I just wanted to do my own way today. It tells me to add in ½ pound of ground beef in with everything else while it's just cooking away for 10 minutes. But I think if I give it a nice browning first, ground beef has browned, so I'm gonna add it in. Yeah. Here is the deal, right? There's a lot of good fun on the bottom of that pan. Some deliciousness that I'm gonna deglaze it with some of that tomato sauce. And then I'm also gonna add that in with the beef and all that. Cook all that together on a moderate heat for 10 minutes. Star of the show is the plantain. I got 5 good looking ripe ones here. And yeah, they gotta be ripe, they can't be green. I've made a boo-boo once before when cooking with plantains, and I was expecting to get a nice sweet flavor to mine, but it was just a cardboardy, starchy green plantain, and it didn't hit the same way. So they gotta look like this. Slice these in half. And the plantains go in here. Add in 6 cups of water. Tablespoon of salt. Bring that to a boil. So it has come to my attention just by sitting here and reading that there are 2 different plantain lasagna recipes here, because what this is called is a pastelón. In the recipe here, the pastelón is the one that I'm making, MEAT-PLANTAIN pie. Although I'm going through the steps and I'm realizing this is like kind of got like a shepherd's pie kind of vibe more than a lasagna. Whereas there is a plantain and meat surprise here called a pignon. And if you follow along to that, you're going to get something gonna get something that I thought I was making, which is a plantain lasagna. What I'm making is an old school and less famous version of this recipe. Why am I only figuring this out now? Okay, so after 15 minutes boiling away, plantains are... Could I have a strainer? Thank you. So I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna drain this, so I'll be right back. Bowl me, the glass one. Ooh, thank you. Okay, so I feel like the cookbook kind of bait and switched me a little bit. A little bit. Anyway, time to peel the plantains, and in they go. Still excited about what I'm making. I'm just taken aback. A little shell-shocked. 4 tablespoons of butter. Mash, mash. Bamboozled by myself. Add in half a cup of flour. Use this as my baking dish. I'm gonna grease it up. Butter's good. So I need to spread half of the plantain mix, throw some on the counter, and then in there. We're gonna be layering like a lasagna, but also like a shepherd's pie. So, you know, not as extravagant as I thought it was gonna be, yet still delicious, hopefully. And then I'm gonna bring over what is the filling for this, and that goes on top of the plantain mix. And then the rest of the plantains. Honestly, calling this a shepherd's pie was a very accurate statement because that's exactly what that looks like right now. 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. All right. So whatever it is that I made is ready. Order up. These plantains are the same texture, same vibe as mashed potatoes, except obviously nothing like that. The plantains steal the show in the dish. The filling is very nice. It's sweet and savory, but I found that there wasn't enough beef in there. I think I added half a pound. You probably could have just added the whole pound. Now, did you notice that there's no cheese in that recipe? First thing I was like, where's the cheese? Typically there would be cheese, and I had to look it up. It's because these are older recipes. So yeah, cheese isn't just like a thing that I guess they threw into every recipe the way we do now. So if you wanted to modernize it, and most modern recipes of a pastelón, they have cheese in them. Anyway, I'm not 100% satisfied because I set out to make something today, which was a plantain lasagna. I had a vision in my head. That's not what it was. That was mostly a casserole kind of vibe to it. So I feel like I need to right a wrong here. I can't set up a video doing one thing and then I don't do it. Where were we, really? I know it feels like just moments ago that you saw me and I was making the meat plantain pie. In reality, I think it's been around 2 weeks. Yeah, I took a bit of a sabbatical from this video, and then today I put on the exact same outfit, which is what I think I was wearing. And I was gonna pretend like it's the exact same day. And then it's like, what's the point in that? I can't lie to you. So let's make this plantain lasagna, the one that I first envisioned in my head prior to the other thing. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, great, fantastic, good talk. Starting off similar to how we did before, this is 2 ounces of a lean cured ham, prosciutto, which I have washed and dried and ready to dice. Kind of, I think like a nice chiffonade will do the trick. And then I have around an ounce, say around 2 ounces of a washed salt pork, also dice up. Between the recipe you just watched me make and this one, the ingredients are fairly similar. Okay, so what am I doing? Chopped green pepper, great. Sweet chili pepper, it says I need 3 of them. I'm gonna use those today. That's what I found. And one for, these are on the smaller side, so I'm gonna throw in this one free of charge. And seed these, of course, or there are no seeds in here. And then just like a roughly chop. 1 onion, chop it. And a couple of garlic cloves. also chopped. 6 of each, dried prunes and olives stuffed with pimento. Give them a chop. So here's an ingredient that's interesting. This turns up in many plantain lasagna recipes. Green beans. I have half a pound worth. I trimmed them, and we're gonna be seeing to that in a moment. But first, to the stove. Bring over your caldero or a heavy kettle. Oi! Dutch oven should work. On a medium heat, let's add in a tablespoon of lard. Pick the lard off the ground and into the pot. I checked for hairs. Diced prosciutto and salt pork. I'm browning rapidly. Turn that down to low, and I'm gonna add in my prepped chopped vegetables. Saute on a low heat for 10 minutes. I bring that up to a boil. Oh, that's 3 cups of water and a teaspoon of salt. Coming at you with the green beans. So I'm just gonna shuffle things around for a second, go off book, follow my intuition. I believe I did this with the last recipe also. And it doesn't mention to brown the beef first prior to adding it in with the vegetables. So that's what I'm gonna do because I think it's necessary. This is a pound of lean ground beef. It doesn't mention this, but I'm gonna add some salt. So once the beef's browned, just bring that back. Yes, you guessed it, beef goes in with the veggies. And then we reduce the heat to low. Take 2 hard-boiled eggs and peel them incredibly poorly, but you know, luckily it doesn't really matter because I'm gonna be chopping them up. Hot here or just... Okay, so the green beans are boiling. I turn it down to a moderate heat and then I boil for 20 minutes. So it is time for the more interesting ingredients. Again, starting with the hard-boiled eggs, prunes and the green olives, 2 tablespoons of raisins, 1 teaspoon of capers, teaspoon of dried oregano, teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of vinegar, say that, 3/4 cup of tomato sauce. Interesting stuff. That is on a low heat. Cover it, cook for 15 minutes. Today's episode is sponsored by Wild Grain Donuts. So if you're someone who thinks that they're a baker, but you know, your kitchen's telling a completely different story, look out. That's Wild Grain, and that can be your safety net. So Wild Grain is the first bake from frozen subscription box. Sourdough breads, artisanal pastries, fresh pastas, even cookies, all from the best small bakeries and pasta makers across the US. So you better believe that it's fully customizable too, and they're constantly adding new things to try out. So when you need something like bread, just reach into the freezer, then into the oven, and now we have a slow fermented sourdough bread with ingredients that you can recognize and that you can pronounce, and boom, fresh bread. For this fall, we have some seasonal winners, like these apple cider donuts. How about some pumpkin cinnamon biscuits? So click the link in my description and use the code ANTICHEF, get $30 off your first box, plus free croissants for life. Let's get back to work. Okay, so I have my green beans, they're boiled, but it wants me to add these into the Dutch oven over there whole. And I'm thinking like, okay, that's cool, but I think this is gonna be the only thing I do that's strays away from the recipe, because I don't know if I want a whole green bean in my lasagna like that. I think it'd be nice if I just kind of, you know, chop them up a bit. So like that. So this is my one contribution to this recipe today. If it bothers you that I'm going off book, add those beans in with everything else. That's the stuff right there. Let's bring on the main ingredient here, which plantains. So I went to one grocery store today and I found these ones, and I bought them knowing that they weren't ripe enough for the recipe, but I was like, okay, well, I'll pick them up and maybe in a couple days from now it'll be ready, because they're still a little green and they're just not gonna be everything that I'm after, you know? I want the sweetness. Then I went to another grocery store and I found these, and they're exactly what I'm after. Very similar looking to what I had with the other recipe. So you know there's gonna be that sweetness. That's what I love about plantains, and that's what I don't know where it's going with that. So let's peel plantains. The thing is, this is 6 plantains here. I have another 6 over there. So yeah, I need to figure out what I'm gonna do with them. I think by the time this video comes out, those plantains should be ripe enough for whatever comes next. So if you have any hot tips for me, let me know. Cut each into 4 lengthwise slices. It's very slippery, so the paper towel gives me some grip. And that should be good. That should do the trick. All right, so shove a bum. I'm gonna use my brazier for this next step. Essentially deep frying the plantains. It's not essentially, that's what we are doing. So what I have here is some paper towel, or as the cookbook says, absorbent paper. So the cookbook gives you the option between lard or vegetable oil for the deep frying. And yeah, I don't really want to use the oil today, and I've never deep fried anything with lard before. How much lard should I add? Let's start off with that, melt it, and see what happens. Okay, here's my sacrificial lamb, brown on both sides. Here we go. That's on way too hot. Damn, Jamie. Holy hell, this plantain didn't stand a chance. Honestly though, it's not that bad. That's an option. I should probably cool that down to something a little more manageable. How hot should lard be when you're deep frying? So lard smoke point is around 280 to 390 degrees Fahrenheit. That is 505 degrees Fahrenheit. So obviously it's a little toasty in there. So it's taking around like a minute per side, give or take, depending on how hot it is. This is now the correct temperature, 380. I think that's good. And when that's nice. Okay, great. So when you add them into the lard, away from you, Jamie, away. Otherwise you burn your hand, and I already did. I think that's all I gotta say to you right now. It is getting a little smoky in here, so allow me to just finish what I'm doing. It's gonna probably take a while. And yeah, fan goes on. That all worked out in the end. It looks swell. So we just put that aside and gonna go fetch an acquaintance. Say hello to Whitey Ford again. So I need 6 eggs, and this is when things get a little, I'm just kind of, I can figure this out. It says beat eggs until stiff, which usually makes sense to me if it said beat egg whites until stiff, but it doesn't. It says the whole eggs. So I think this is a bit of an old-timey way of saying beat the eggs until they're around, I don't know, like the ribbon stage maybe? That's what I'm thinking. The worst that can be done here is that you screwed up. So 6 eggs. I'm just so happy with the performance that you gave me in the last video, so it's time for an encore. So I believe if I take that to a whipping area, number 11, I think that should work. I'll turn it up to 11. Okay, so we have reached the ribbon stage. I think that's probably what the cookbook's after in terms of stiffness. 3/4 teaspoon of salt, and then let's keep going. So it says you need a 9-inch Teflon frying pan. Honestly, I think I'm happy with my cast iron here. And yeah, this is what I want to use. End of story. We need to heat 2 tablespoons of fat in the pan. Let's see, the lard that I cooked the plantains in looks okay to me. It's not burnt or anything. It just looks like plain old lard. So why don't I just use that and layer the bottom of the pan with 2 tablespoons worth of it. See, reduce, reuse, recycle. It says to heat it up, but since that was already warmed, pour my stiff eggs into a measuring cup just to see how much I'm working with, which is around 4 cups worth of stiffened egg. And I need to pour in half of it to the bottom of this pan. 1/3 of the plantain slices. The eggs are so damn foamy, but I guess you're like beating that much air into them, right? So I'm gonna bring over the meat mixture. Half of the meat mixture goes on top of the plantains. Okay, and then just spread it. All right, it's 1/3 of the plantains. Remaining meat mixture, the rest of the plantains, and then the remaining beaten egg. I gotta admit that I've never really seen anything like this before. It's unique. I am intrigued, continuing to be intrigued. So let's bring this over the stove. Onto a moderate heat for 15 minutes. We're back over here again. Place a big platter over the frying pan. Oh boy. So this is what we gotta do here, and this is a fairly risque move. But that's what the cookbook says, man. It says, oh boy. Remove from the heat, place a big platter over the frying pan and turn over carefully. That's what it wants me to do. There is a note in much smaller font. It tells me that I could have baked this in a glass baking dish in a 350-degree oven for 30 minutes until the egg is set and golden brown. You do not unmold, you serve it in the dish. That's far easier than flipping it upside down and doing what I'm about to do. But that's why I have my show, to entertain. So I think I'll just do this like I'm unmolding a cake, right? Make sure it's loose around the sides. I don't know how this is gonna work, man. Is that gonna hold together? It's fairly sturdy. Okay. You gotta pray that this egg has been cooked long enough that it has set and that thing is gonna hold its shape instead of just, you know. I think I should have used a non-stick pan for this. Why didn't I use a non-stick pan for this? Damn it all to hell. The cookbook says use a Teflon pan. I saw that and I chose to ignore it and use this instead. It's all on me. If I used a frickin' Teflon pan, it would have... It's a non-stick. Why, oh why do you do the things that you do, you punk ass? I feel like we have a second life. It is keeping its shape here. It's not just like falling apart. It is one piece here, it's one piece there. It's just, it came apart in the middle. So if I just do a second flip here, I know, a second flip is unheard of with this kind of thing, but it's gotta be done. This is so stupid, Jamie. Ah! I have confidence. Okay, just believe in yourself. Anything is possible if you believe in yourself. Burnt. It's isolated in the center. So I think if I just take the scalpel, peel that off, we'll lose some of the plantain, but it's better than losing the whole dish. See, that plantain is burnt. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. I have a few extra plantains. I took the one that is the most ripe of the group. It's not perfect, it's not terrible. I don't know why I threw the banana peel over there. It's plantain, whatever. A rescue mission here. I'm just gonna quickly brown the sides of this sucker in some oil. What does it smell like? Burnt?
It smells like putrid.
While I'm in the midst of trying to save this dish, my lovely wife just came down here and asked what the hell that smell is. Because it does smell a lot like burnt plantain. I'm also deep frying with lard. There's a lot going on. So that explains the smell. It doesn't explain how I'm gonna get myself out of this thing. Oh my God, on camera, that looks incredibly interesting, doesn't it? So I deep fried more plantain. Thank God I had some extra. And that is gonna replace the burnt plantain on the bottom. I've switched to a non-stick pan. Bring over more of that lard that I was just deep frying with. Move it around my non-stick pan. I have beaten up more egg. That doesn't make any sense. How am I gonna get this over there? I think you're gonna just have to go frickin' buck wild, man. I don't know why I'm so determined right now to do this, but I am, and it's really just annoying how determined I actually am. Oh, so problem is now that the plate is underneath the bottom, how do I get out of this scenario? Spread that evenly and lovingly across the top. I am just kind of tumbling down the rabbit hole of despair right now, and I hope that I can climb out of it, but yeah, I'm gonna do this all again. Let's try. How about like just around medium, like maybe just slightly less. Remove from the heat, place a big platter over the frying pan and turn carefully. It is hard to keep going right now. Add a tablespoon of lard. You know what's very frustrating is it says to cook over a moderate heat. I mean, it couldn't have been more moderate than that. It was between medium and low. Like, it shouldn't be like that in the center there, because that was a brand new plantain I had it on top. Now I slip it back into the frying pan. All right, so now that the bottom has now become the top, I gotta cook this over a low heat for 15 minutes. A low heat. I wish you said that the first time around. Hey. So this is a man that has lost hope with his dinner. It just looks so bad. It looks so bad. I understand it looks bad. I wasn't trying to make it look bad, it just looks bad. And that's how it looks. It says to flip it over on a serving platter. I got the silver one, which... The lard on this counter really made that slide. And then I have a white plate. I do have a cake platter too, but that would look so stupid on it. So I'm just gonna use a plate. Honestly, that looks better than I could have ever... Order up! Honestly, I can barely see that this is even here. It's blending in with the cutting board. It's like camouflage. At least you can see it. Obviously, going right into the center. That was that. You know, obviously you gotta pick through the burnt parts and, you know, a little dry in areas, but generally speaking, it's okay. You know, it's not the worst. It's not the worst thing I've made in the past, like, month or so. No, it doesn't. It does not lose to that tomato aspect, that's for sure, and that is a full compliment. Also, I think it was better than the banana meatloaf that I made. Something about the banana fruit family and combining it with meat that I haven't figured out yet. There was pockets in there, some of those bites where I was like, okay, I can see what's going on here. If someone else made this, maybe I could really enjoy this, but here today, you know, it is what it is. There's shades of caramelized plantains, and you take a bite, that sweetness, there's something about a plantain when it's done right. That's not done right. And then the filling was my favorite part when it was on the stove, but then here it's kind of dry. Yeah, but in the middle area of this monstrosity is where it excelled. And you know, that filling had no shortage of ingredients. It's gotta be one of those using up what's in the pantry and in the kitchen recipes, right? Because there's just like so much going on. For a plantain and meat surprise, I was definitely surprised, so there's that. If I had to pick between the meat plantain pie and this one, you know, just based on what I presented here, I would go with the former, but any given Sunday, really. I don't want to go on a full-on apology tour here because I did try my damnedest, but anyone that is Puerto Rican, I do apologize. I did give 110%. And, you know, there are positives here. It's not just a sob story. I am no longer hungry. Had a nice slice. I think that's it. This was Spine and Dine. Bon appetit. Au revoir.